how we usually develop. We make sure through HRD that we do our reference checks, because those reference checks are very important. Sometimes we try to go 2 or 3 employees back, because there may be a story, God forbid, 2 or 3 employees back where something went wrong. So we try and make sure we do 2 or 3 reference checks as well.
Now, let me ask you, once the people are already in, how do employees' emotion impact the business?
Right, I mean, that word emotion is very important in everyday life. The way you treat your kids, the way you treat your wife, emotions. It's, in a way, I shouldn't say more important, as important in a company. So I think the most important, when you deal with people's emotion, those emotions are tested when those targets are being given. So everybody who's being given a target should be sat down, explained that why this target is being given, or this key performance indicator. You know, we give a lot of people in their appraisal key performance indicators, KPIs. Those KPIs could be based on financial results, they could be based on some other competencies that they improve upon. So what we do is to ensure that the emotions of staff at the end of the year or during the year are not wrongly charged up. We try and sit down with each staff and sit down with them that this is why your sales target, for example, is being set. Give them the opportunity to give their explanation why it's too high or it should be higher, and why these KPIs, measurable KPIs are being set, so he's fully aware that how he's going to be judged. And give him the opportunity to, you know, maybe he can correct you, maybe we've made a mistake in terms of the sales targets. So I think that's very important, because that's where usually the emotions of staff are tested, because those are the things that affect the staff's monetary gain that he could get in the future. So it's very important to sit down with the staff, give him the chance to also explain, and then move forward. So if you can manage that within, you can never be perfect, but if you can manage that, then the emotions of the staff you can also manage. The other emotions the staff has, obviously that's a personal issue, as I explained earlier, that it's very important for the manager to have that one-on-one with the staff, so he feels free. But generally the emotions are based on monetary achievements, and that's budgeted targets and KPIs.
So how would you respond to somebody who is unhappy with his reward system?
Well, as I told you, Amro, for me it's very, I have this open door policy. I would, if that employee was working with me, 99% or at least 90%, I don't want to get carried away, 90% I'm sure he would come to me and make that point. And as long as he explains his point that I'm upset because of a proper logic, I would also give him the logic in a nice manner. Now you need to understand, you have, unfortunately in every company, you have some employees that they believe they should be somewhere, when in reality their performance doesn't do that. They believe that they should get an increment anyway because somebody else got an increment. You have those cases as well. Even in those cases, you try and nurture them to the best of their ability. There's been cases where the employee, no matter what you explain to him, his performance gets affected. In that case, even if you part with the employee, it's very important to keep that relationship during the parting there as well. Because sometimes the employees are just not satisfied. They believe they should get something because of the market, because of they're better than somebody else in the company, and no matter how you explain to them, they see their own view. Even if they are to leave the company, it's very important from day one to the exit of that employee that you keep that approach that, you know, guys, I'm with you. You need anything else, even if you're leaving the company, the door is always there. If you need a reference, if you need anything else. So he feels that, you know, even after leaving the company, he'll say, look, the guys have still treated me nicely. That helps you in the future with other companies, because a normal human being, if he's treated well, he will usually say that the company that I left was good. So even in the cases where you can't solve the problem and the employee wants to leave you because of that problem, you should still maintain that relationship, you know, in the parting and the exiting. So the employees, you know, when he goes somewhere else, he will eventually give a good remark.
So Midhat, if the emotions are so important, and of course they are very important, how does the interaction of people affect the emotions?
I was on this program once, a program as in on an executive course, an executive program, and there was a study measuring how top companies within their environment treat their staff. And the result of that study was that usually that helps the staff creating more, or bringing in more customers and creating more sales. There was a case in Procter and Gamble where there was a study where the way the management were flexible with their staff, tolerant, the way they were motivating their staff, the way they were expecting their staff to treat their juniors, it resulted in, because everybody has different types of customers, and when you have a construction project, there's a different type of dealing. When you have an IT project, there's a different type of dealing. Procter and Gamble in the fast-moving consumer goods, different mindset. Hospitality, different mindset. So there was a study showing that the way you treat staff and you give them training, it helps their approach towards the customers. I mean, you can imagine a staff coming into the office, and I've shouted at him the last 3 days, and he has a very important sales pitch which could give him an order. He would be going into that sales pitch not in the ideal frame of mind. So the environment in the office affects your potential opportunity to bring a new customer. There's been a study with the top Procter & Gamble, 4 or 5 of the companies, that the environment that you nurture into an office, or the emotions of the staff, no matter how good a sales guy is, actually affects his chances of securing business. There has been a study. So, as I said, it's important to deal with staff in a manner that you'd expect them to deal with a customer. So this is how we deal with staff in a manner that he's more able to understand things, explain our product in a better way to the customers.
How do you encourage your employees to bear in mind the impact of the moment every time they interact with a colleague or with a customer?
Well, I can give you an example. We were just recently in competition for a very big IT project for Mubadala Petroleum, and there was about 12, 13 vendors. Now Mubadala is a huge company, and there were some very, very big companies in the vendor selection. There was about 12, 13 companies. They actually selected 2. One of them was one of our companies. And when we asked them, and you should never be shy when you lose an opportunity to ask why you lost that opportunity. I always ask the people, why did I lose that opportunity? And when you win, usually people ask the question when they lose, why did we lose? But when you win, you also ask, could you tell me who else was in the, we usually know who's in the bidding. Could you tell me why we won? And this is linked to what I said earlier. And what happens is that Mubadala told us that there was a lot of tricky questions that we asked your staff. And we realized it was easier to give us a wishy-washy answer. They actually gave a very straightforward. That gave us a level of comfort, because the business that we were about to win was outsourcing business. That gave a level of comfort that we should assign our staff to your company for future business, because it was an outsourced business where their staff would be on our payroll. So one of the competencies that gave us the high marks was how our staff, during the process, answered questions that really they could have easily, and some of the big company guys gave different wishy-washy answers. The way they were straightforward and said yes or no. It's things like that that make a difference. Coming back to the same point, if you have that culture in the company to give the facts as they are, they do help you bring in customers. And Mubadala did raise that. Your guys were very honest. Apart from the core professionalism, they answered questions that could have lost them the business, but they actually were very straightforward. So again, if you have that culture within the company, you will get business. And that was an example with Mubadala. And there was a lot of multinationals that were in that competition.
What are the top 3 challenges that leaders are facing today?
For me, it's a straightforward question. The 3 main challenges any company or any leader is facing is to hire the top people, or as good as possible. Ensure you can retain those people. Part of the retention policy has to be creating a corporate culture that they would stay. There's people that get offered double salaries but still stay in the old company. So hiring the people, creating the corporate culture, the corporate governance structure to retain those people. And third, in my life, I've seen the good managers be transparent. So good people, retain them, create a corporate culture and transparency. If you can get those 4, they sound very simple, but it's not very simple to get. If you can get those 4 things, it's probably 3, you said, but if you can get those 4 things, I think you're on a winning platform.
Midhat, finally, let me ask you, what else can you tell us about managing people for results?
Managing people for results, the name of the game is results, and the name of the game is bringing on human capital. I think you should always appreciate people during their ups and downs, especially during their downs, because they will appreciate you when they create results. Always set targets that are realistic. Always sit with your employees, explain those targets, so you can manage their expectations if they do not achieve those targets. And third, as I've mentioned earlier, always be transparent when you discuss results with your people, because those are very important things. So create targets that are achievable, ensure that the staff has understood why those targets have been set, give the staff an opportunity to give their explanation what should be the target. And third, always during the process, I usually do it on a weekly basis, nurture the staff, especially during their low times. I think those are the 3 most important things that if you manage, eventually you will, and if you get the correct people, eventually you will succeed.
Thank you very much. That was really valuable information coming from the expert of the field. It was a pleasure having you with us today. So many thanks for coming.
Thank you, Amro. It was a pleasure being here. I look forward to catching up again with you.
Thank you very much, Midhat.
Thank you.
I'm Amro Bullock. Thank you for joining.